Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley with Brad Sturdy, Kedric Prince, Marcus Griffin, Illini legend. We are here tonight, folks. We're going to do a little bit of Portal Combat, talk a little bit about what's going on around the Illini sports beat. And Brad, there have been a lot of concern from people, and I wrote about it in today's Heat Check and Hail Marys. You can find that at IlliniGuys.com. But if I recall last year, if you take last year and put it in this year, we're still 1 month away, actually 1 month and a week away from Kasparis committing and a full 2 months from Will Riley committing. But there is a sense of doom and gloom, which happens every year when early on players, they declare and then they get scooped up. How have you emotionally been handling this, Brad?
It's interesting. I guess I'm better than most people because this is what I expected. We expected this. We heard a while back that Stojakovic may enter the portal. Illinois would obviously want him if he entered the portal and so forth and so on. When he enters the portal, you're like, that's a guy they want. And obviously they got him on a visit now, and that's a great thing, right? We'll see what happens. But everybody wants this kid because he's really good. And so that's normal. So as I've gone through this, the only guy they've really missed on, and people have talked about misses this, misses that. The only guy they really missed on was Josh Dix because they really went hard at Josh Dix. They really wanted him badly. And they felt like he could have played with basically anybody. And that he was such a good fit because even if you had a Stojakovic or a Demesar or whatever, and he was going to be a valuable piece there. And I think you would go in a different direction. And this is where people don't understand. People are like, I think you could go in a different direction if you have Josh Dix, and then you could add Demesar with Josh Dix because they fit better together than maybe a Stojakovic and a Demesar or something like that. So they're always trying to fit the pieces together and see how things work out. But that's the only guy they miss on. Adam Miller, of course, is in Adam Miller land. He's in Mecca and Fire land, so who knows what's going on there. I don't know what'll happen there. But here's what I'll say. They're in a good spot. Because the big key for them leading in this offseason, retaining Kylan Boswell, retaining Thomas Lavievicic, adding that front court depth. David Mrkovic we are just totally missing the boat on this dude. He's a really good player. Getting Ty Rodgers back is really important as well. As much from a culture standpoint as also a guy who can guard. Everybody's complaining about how bad the defense was a year ago, and they need to get better defensively. Here's a guy who can defend. They need to be more athletic. Where's the guy who's really athletic? But not him. I want other guys who are defending or athletic, not him. Yeah, it's always interesting.
I don't have anything to say. Brad just summed up my whole podcast. Literally, everything he just said, I was already prepared to say tonight. I really was, from the pieces that are already there. People taking Kylan Boswell, Ibisic, and Ty Rodgers for granted. We talked about the mystery guy on our Zoom that night, and Illinois has done a really good job over the years, and there's no secret that this kid allegedly is on campus today. But they've always had a stud. There's always been one or two studs on this roster, and I know a lot of people, sometimes they get upset, they get frustrated because you miss and you swing and miss on a kid. And this is another point to Brad Sturdy. They really only had the guy they really went after that they took a swing and it was a foul ball was Dix. Because Brad and I can put on the message boards and tell you all the things that they're interested in players, but how many players have actually been on campus? Those are the ones that you know that they really want. Those are the guys that they say, hey, you know what? We want you to be an everyday guy. We want you to be a part of our family. So there's not been very many guys that's been on campus. And the ones that they get on campus, you can damn well bet you that they're going to get the red carpet treatment. They're going to make sure that they know how important they are. And they've done it. And if you look at most of the rosters, one of the reasons I think Illinois has been so successful, Mike, you mentioned Domask and Will Riley, how they got those players late is because these rosters are already full. So, you know what? You could come to Illinois and make, I'm sure it's going to come up at some point, NIL money, and make a lot of money NIL-wise. You're going to be on one of the marquee teams in the Big Ten. And I had a friend tell me today, and I'm not saying Illinois is offering him by $2.4 million because I don't know that. But let's just say that happened. You look at what Terrence Shannon got drafted last year, I think he made 2.7. Why would you not come back to college? Terrence Shannon, we think, should be playing. He's sitting on the bench wasting a year, but you can come back to college and improve your draft stock. Demesar is another one. Why go to the league and be a late round, first round draft pick if you get drafted in the first round when you could come back to college and make that kind of money and be on the court and improve your stock for the next following year?
Yep. Griff, you got a unique perspective here. You know, what goes through a player's mind when they're thinking about, should I go and play in the G League and the development league in front of 43 people? Should I go back to the college and make $3 million? What kind of math as a player do you look at from a development standpoint?
The times have definitely changed, because when we was coming out of college, I think that was the first year of the G League all the way back then. And you just never knew how it was going to be the portal that it is now for the NBA. So back then, it was just about visibility. If you was going to get drafted, nobody knew exactly how it was going to turn out, but how visible would it be? What would be the opportunities of getting called up to your team? But nowadays, there's absolutely no reason to go to the G League when, like KP said, when you got guys that can make $2.4 million or $1 million or $1.5 million, why would you go to the G League? Because right there, you're going to be making more money back in college to improve your draft stock. So I 1,000% will be like, talk to parents, mom, dad, hey, this is what we got. I could go to the NBA, maybe a late first round pick, maybe early second round, get a two-way contract, or maybe just get that one-way contract in the D League. Or I can go back to college, maybe 1 year, start on my master's because I've graduated, and go at it that way.
Yeah, that's the thing, I guess, that I look at. Now I'm gonna say something that maybe a lot of Illini fans will disagree with, but I was severely disappointed when Morez decided to leave.
You're
I
not
have
the
no
only one.
problem. I have no problems. I think he's going to be dynamite. I wish he was going to be in the orange and blue. And then the second thing that I think that a lot of people will disagree with is I was extremely excited that Ty Rodgers is back. I know that he can't shoot, but in the eyes of a lot of people, but I've been around enough AAU things. I've seen the man hit three-pointers being guarded by guys who are in the NBA now. Anthony Black for one. So I look at him as a guy that is going to add a lot to the team. So as we go into this, I'm excited to see what we want to get. So we talk about Stojakovic, Brad and Ked. I know you guys have the opportunity to break down film, and you've also coached a lot of years. Well, what can Illini fans expect from him if he is a guy who ends up choosing the Illini?
With Stojakovic, you get a guy who can score. He's an elite scorer, and he scores from 2-point. And a lot of people get caught up in his 3-point percentage and say he only shot this from 3. But he took a lot of, and I hate to say this, a lot of his threes were bad threes.
Because he's on a bad team, Brad. You're exactly
Correct.
right, buddy.
And so he doesn't have anybody creating for him. Does that make sense? So when you look at a guy like him, you've got a guy who's he's taking off the dribble threes. He's taking late shot clock threes. These are all things that happen, right? And they're not good shots. And so you're going to shoot a lower percentage when you have a crazy high usage, and you have to take a lot of those shots. And so he's taking 28% of the shots when he's on the floor. That's a large number. That's a high usage. And so what happens is then you got a guy he is taking those pull-up threes off the dribble, contested shots late in the shot clock. And it goes down. His shooting percentages go down. I'll give you my best example for Illini fans so you can understand this. D. Brown didn't become a worse shooter his senior year than he was his junior year when he shot, 43 or 44% from 3 as junior, Big Ten Player of the Year. But his senior year, he didn't have Darren Williams. He didn't have Roger Powell. He didn't have all those guys around him, Luther Head. He's just had James Augustine, but he didn't have those guys. So his shots are contested. His shots are late shot clock. It always went to him. It didn't go to Darren. It didn't have Darren to help. He didn't have Luther to help. He didn't have Roger to help. So he didn't have those guys, so he had to do more. His shooting percentage goes way down. It's not because he's a bad shooter. I mean, Stojakovic is not a bad shooter. So I think if you put him around guys like Ivasic, like Boswell, who can do things with the ball, who can pass, who can get him open, and who are threats to score on their own, and maybe that's Mrkovic too, guys who can get to the basket, you're going to see a much more efficient player who's going to put up similar numbers, but be more efficient doing it. And that's the key. So that's why I break him down. He's excellent. You can play this guy in booty ball. You can use him as a ball screen handler. You can switch and get mismatches with him on smaller guys. He can take them down with some booty ball, post them. You put him on bigger guys, he can get to the rim. He had a really nice free throw rate as well, 40.9 free throw rate. Shot 165 free throws last year at Cal. So obviously that's good. He's a guy who can, he's a very good passer too. Very good passer, probably underrated, but again, he didn't have great teammates around him, so he had to do a lot. The other thing is you get a guy who he's very long, his ability to block shots. He had a block rate, which was actually very close to Ivasic's block rate. Like his was 4%, Ivasic 4%, Stojakovic 3.7%. Because he's long enough and that helps him he knows how to use his length to contest those shots against smaller guys on the perimeter as well. So you're getting a guy who can really do a lot of things. There are certain spots on the floor he's deadly, other spots not as much. I think Illinois will put him in those positions where he really has his spot. If you remember, think about like how many times Illinois put Io in those spots where he wanted to be. How many times they put Terrence Shannon in the spot where he wanted to be. Marcus Damas, which wing did he like to get the ball? They're going to do that with this guy too. They're going to get him in those spots, his places on the floor, because we all have them. And we all have a place where this is my spot. Griff, you had to have one too. If I get the ball here, I am scoring 9 times out of 10 because this is my spot and this is where I want this ball. And so that's where they're only going to put him in that position if they can get him, and they're going to use him that way.
Mike, let me tell you this before I get my evaluation of him as a player. Number one, you do not have to apologize to me or anybody on this podcast for the way you feel about Ty Rodgers. I learned that from my big fellow who's on this show with us, Marcus Griffin, because you're entitled to your opinion. Number two, I don't like the fact that Morez Johnson left. We can talk about all the hoopla and how his dad went about it and how he went about it the whole 9 yards. You and I saw that kid when he was in 9th grade. If you remember, we were at Washington High School in Peoria, watched that kid play. So we have a vested interest. Because you like him as a player doesn't mean that Mike Cagley's a bad guy. He doesn't know what the hell is going on with basketball. As much as we love Marcus Griffin, who's sitting on this show, Griffin's smart enough to understand there's always going to be haters out there, and that's just how it is. Number one, don't ever apologize for that, because I'm not going to anymore. It's crazy. You're entitled to your opinion. Number two, out of all the kids that Illinois has been pursuing in this portal, this is the one that I want. I can't say that it's going to happen. I don't know if it will happen. The reason I like this kid's game is because Brad mentioned earlier, and I have my own opinions, but when you are a guy and you're on a bad team, you know what? You mentioned D. Brown. Look at Michael Jordan. Remember when he first got there, how bad the Bulls were and how many shot attempts he had to take for him just to get his average? This kid will flourish in Illinois' offense because one, there's pieces put around him. We started the podcast with Kylan Boswell, with Big Fella and Ty Rodgers. And Ben Humrickhouse is a guy that we haven't talked about. Maybe his game will change next year. He will have a much better supporting cast. So the game will be much easier for him. I like him because he's a go-to guy. Illinois does not have a go-to guy on their roster right now. They don't have that, and they're looking for that. As good as I think Ty Rodgers is, as good as I think Ivasic is, they're not go-to guys. You can draw plays up for them. Both big Z's are just going to be great in pick and pop, if that's what Brad's going to do with both of those guys. But you need a Domask. You need a Terrence Shannon Jr. You need that alpha dog who's going to go get it, and that's what I like about him. I like his ability to, when we talk about scoring at all three levels, he can literally do that. And what I judge too, about the competition that he did it against. Being on a bad team, shooting 50% from the field against a team like Clemson or Stanford tells me that he's not a bad basketball player. And I like how professional they are going about this. There are some other schools that are interested. We know that's going to happen. But I think Illinois getting that first visit, I know USC is one of the schools that's after him. I know Florida's after him. I know North Carolina. But getting that first visit is huge because we can talk about favoritism, how much we like Orlando, and whether it's Chester Frazier or Jeff Alexander or Tyler Underwood. Coach Orlando recruited this kid when he was at Kentucky. He has ties from a long time ago and still to this day with these kids. I can't emphasize how important he is to the University of Illinois and getting these players in there. And I'm going to tell you, you can also bet on this, and you're going to hear this if Illinois gets this kid. I'm going to tell you who's going to play another key role in this is Adam Fletcher. Adam Fletcher is going to play another key role in this because obviously they want this kid to play in the NBA. Illinois proved that they put kids in the NBA. Their offense they run is an NBA type of offense. This is tailor-made for him.
Yep. And Griff, have you had a chance to take a look at him or not?
I saw a little bit of him in the game, but saw some YouTube stuff of him, but not that much. But I agree with everything KP said. I think this offense with the style, you be able to isolate, you be able to knock down some shots. It's a pro-style offense, and it's good for somebody who has that dog in them, who wants to go out and get buckets. It's perfect for any guard that has played in coach's offense, from Io, from even Trent Frazier, young, he was going after it. And Terrence Shannon, it's a perfect fit for him. Come on home.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like I said, I keep thinking his ability to play some booty ball would be good. Any other guys that we're hearing? Let's talk a little bit about Sarr. We've talked about him in the past. I still think he's an opportunity for the Illini. It just is one that may open up later on. Brad, am I being way too hopeful there, too optimistic, or is there a chance he could end up in orange and blue as well?
Everything is fluid, Mike. Recruiting is fluid. If you'd asked me a month ago, I'd have told you Demay Sarr was going to be in Illini. I think things have changed as they're. So here's the thing with Demay Sarr. Demay Sarr, I can tell you this: he wanted to come to Illinois. Illinois was in a weird spot because he also wants to be a guy who has the ball in his hands a lot. The problem is Brad Underwood saw it this year in March Madness. The first game of March Madness, Will Riley was fantastic. Second game, not so much. Kasparis with the turnovers. Can you rely on a freshman? Yeah, if you got Cooper Flagg, maybe you can, but they didn't win either, even though they were probably the most talented team. So yeah, I think you have to question. Brad wanted to be old. He wanted to get old and he wanted to stay old. And they weren't very old last year. And so we saw those freshmen have breakdowns. Doesn't mean that Kasparis, Yakshonis, and Will Riley aren't fantastic players, but they aren't. Then we see the way Kylan Boswell played in March. He was fantastic down in the last 7 games. So it's hard for young guys to get it. So I think that's one of the questions, right? So that's one of the questions. So I think he wants to get old. Is Demay would, if, and the other thing is Dame would be a guy who would be the youngest guy in the NBA draft. He turns in June, he'd be 19. He's just barely old enough for the NBA draft this year. So if he does decide to stick around, then you're talking about a guy who's probably going to have a first-round guarantee. Somebody has told him, hey, we're going to take you late first round. So do you want to get a commitment from that guy and then depend on him? And then other guys know who he is. It's not like this isn't a guy who people don't know who he is, and they know what he wants. So you better have a guy who's willing to take him on or something with that. And so if you take him, it may limit what you can get at the other spot. And then you're going to rely on a freshman. There's a lot of things. Now, that doesn't mean it can't happen or won't happen, but I think that there's a lot of things going against it. But I will tell you, Jeff Alexander did a fantastic job getting him on board, working with this and working well with him and getting him with Brad Underwood and so forth. And they did a great job recruiting him. And I think they were in a really good spot. But I don't think that you can make him your guy. You can't be your go-to guy. We're talking about they need a guy, right? And I think you're much more comfortable if it's a guy like Stojakovic as opposed to a Dame Sarr. Now, does that mean they can't play together? Heck no, it doesn't mean they can't play together. I think they can. But it's got to be sold the right way. It's got to be done the right way. And when you've got a guy like Stojakovic is not looking to go into the draft, Dame Sarr is. And so he's probably going to combine invite. So who knows what's going to happen there because he's a freak athlete. So there's so many moving parts. I think sometimes people just want you get this guy and get that guy. Well, okay, it doesn't always work that way. It's not that easy, especially when you brought back the guys who are going to be your centerpieces are consistent guys in that starting lineup.
One of the things we talked about the last game of the year, all 4 of us together, was getting old. I love the fact that Dame Sarr is the potential guy who could be one and done. I thought he was a lock to Illinois too as well, and I do know he wants to go to Illinois. His agents, his camp, everybody, they've been telling him this. Kasparis has been telling him Illinois is where you need to go. I've even heard Big Bisic, Tommy's talked to him, listen, this is a place where you can go be successful. Think about it. He came back and he could have left. The issue is, as much talented, bad English, as talented as Illinois was last year, they were relying on a freshman, Kasparis, who was struggling to win games for them. With Stojakovic, you have a different guy who's going to be a junior, I believe. I think if I'm right, he'll be a junior in college. So he's been around the block, and he's going to be older. So you don't have to worry about relying on a freshman, which is what Brad just said, because at the end of the day, as good as Will Riley was at the end of the season, they were relying on a freshman. Then, like you said, they never really put 2 or 3 games together back to back. They've won those games, but they weren't great at doing it. That was the difference between this year's team versus last year's team. And nobody's asking them to duplicate that. I don't think that's a possibility, but you can get older. And having a guy like Colin Boswell and Ty Rogers, who will be a junior as well, who's been in the system, it's a good piece together. I just wish Dami would look at the big picture, because I'm telling you, I know draft boards, they're for entertainment purposes. I get it. I understand. But I really would be surprised if he got drafted in the first round. To me, he is throwing away money, like we talked about with other kids, to take a shot at the NBA. He's going to be an NBA prospect. I thought he was decent in the Hoop Summit game. Robbie Hummel thought he was the next Julius Erving. So he's going to get the media attention. Why not go to school for a year and nobody to put the ball in your hand? If somebody's telling you that as a freshman, that team's going to be trash, because Kentucky's not going to do that. St. John's not going to do that. They're just going to give you the ball and think if that's what you're relying on, the team won't win very many games.
Any thoughts on the freshman there, Griff? I know probably as a junior, you were really looking for freshmen to lead the way for you.
Big Ten, man, you already know what I'm going to say. I love the fact that if we could get a little bit older, I still like some youth in there. You got to have some young legs to get out there and take off on the court. But I definitely love the fact that if we could get a couple of juniors, and then we got a couple of you got Boswell, who's upper class. He'll be an upperclassman. You got Tim, who's got his next year. He'll be able to put on a little bit more muscle. The sky's the limit with the team. And then we get a dog. We get another dog. You got Ty Rogers, who's a dog, just defensively, just a different type of dog. And then you got Boswell, who's a dog. And now you got an offensive juggernaut. I like the mix. I like the mix.
Perfect. And any other names or anybody out there that's intrigued you, Brad, in terms of potential targets for the Illini? Doesn't necessarily mean we're talking pure insider information, but you may have seen a couple names that you thought that would be a good match or you would be interested in seeing.
I will say this: there's a couple guys that I think would be, and I don't want to say that nobody is cheap in the portal. It doesn't work that way anymore. Here's what I want you to understand: like guys today who are like role player guys are getting more than the top players used to get in under the table money years ago. We talk about a guy we always talked about, Kentucky and Anthony Davis or whatever, and getting $200,000. Well, now $200,000 is like a bench guy. It's just a different world.
That is crazy. Oh my God. How did I benefit from this?
Griff, he's 100%. I'm telling you, there are guys who are 9th and 10th guys on the team who I consider roster fillers that are going to make a minimum of $150,000 a year. He's right.
Yep. So here, I'll list a couple guys, and I've talked about some of these guys on the IlliniGuys message board. And one guy came up, and I was just having a conversation that I liked, and that was a guy named, and I think this is where you can find some guys who are maybe I don't know, maybe under the radar, or guys who coming off an injury. Like this, the guy from, if you remember last year, a hot commodity in the transfer portal was a guy named Cade Tyson from Belmont. And then he went to North Carolina and he never saw the floor. Just never could get on the floor, never got on track, didn't fit. I think he would be an intriguing guy because of his ability to shoot the ball and space the floor. And he's 6'7" too. He's good. A guy that I love for the Big Sky Player of the Year, and this is my personal, and I know Illinois has reached out to him. I will say that they have reached out to him, at least, and had some conversations, but is Dylan Darling from Idaho State. He put up over 20 points a game, 6 assists, 4 point some rebounds. And he's a lefty. He's a dynamic shooter. He shot 38% from 3. And he also gets to the line at extremely high frequency as well. So those are a couple guys. Then you have guys who maybe just entered the portal and are coming off injuries. So they were hot commodities a year ago, and they get injured. They sit out a year. Look at Indiana right now. They have the DeVries kid, right? Remember he sat out last year. And basically, and so now he's going to play again in Indiana. And I'm not saying you're going to have to. Of course, your father's coach, it gives you an idea, but I'm not saying you have to be that. But there's a guy here. I'll give you an example. There's a guy named Jaden Stone who averaged 23 points a game, 6 rebounds or whatever, 3 assists or something at Detroit Mercy. Sat out this year. That's an intriguing player if you can get him for a reasonable amount. We've talked about Adam Miller. We've talked about before, obviously, and so that would be that's a guy who Illinois wants. And here, I'm going to give you a little Adam Miller information. So did you know that Adam Miller was in the 98th percentile in catch and shoot threes and in spot ups this year? He was also 68th percentile as a ball screen ball handler, which I never thought we would say about Adam Miller, but he did a really good job as a secondary ball handler at Arizona State. And so there's little things. It really did. And the other thing is, you look at the shots he took, he was really good when he was, instead of, he made shots off the dribble more than he ever had before. And he's always been a good spot up guy, just wide open catch and shoot guy. And he shot outside the left corner. He shot 22% from the left corner, and he was 41 to 50% in every other spot on the floor. So don't put him in the left corner, and who knows what he'll shoot. But no, those are all things that come out of this. And I think that there's a lot of options still out there. And I think there are going to be other guys. And all these dudes that entered the portal now, here's the other thing that's going through. We haven't talked about this at all. I don't think I've even talked about it message board or anything. But what happens if the NCAA gives a bunch of these guys a 5th year of eligibility who are out of eligibility because they go to the 5-5? Now they're going to say, we're not going to start it until this class. They're going to say it's over now. These guys are out of eligibility. One of these guys is going to sue.
And they're
going to win.
And they're probably going to win and get another year of eligibility. So what happens to all those guys? Because all the budgets are going to be gone by the time that happens. You might be able to get a 5th year guy who is like a really good player out of eligibility for $500,000. So you want to keep a little bit of behind because you don't know what's going to happen here. And so I think it's very intriguing. I think what the NCAA do, they'll wait until after the school year starts for this 5th year thing to announce it. Like that's what I think they want to do that, because if they do that, then it's going to be harder to get these guys eligible to play this year if they wanted to play anyway. So this is, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think somebody mentioned this. Underwood needs to spend big on a 2 and 3 guard. I think that's why they have Stojakovic on campus, right? They really feel like he's a great guy. And then,
so he's not a penny pinching venture?
No, not at all. He is not. And then the other thing I will say this, the roster turnover rate, the key is this year they don't have as much roster turnover. You have guys who went pro. You have Trey White and Merez, but you brought back Ivasic and Boswell. Tomislav Ivasic is really good. It would not surprise me if he's an all Big Ten player next year. He was honorable mention this year. And so I think he's honorable. He's a all Big Ten guy. Kylan Boswell is going to be a senior who's finally reached the ripe old age of 20. And he had a great finish to the season. And I really think getting those guys back is huge. And then you have a guy who's going to be in his 4th year in college, and Ty Rogers too. They got a lot of returning guys who know the culture, know the system. They have more depth in the front court. When you talk about being able to play Jaxis and Big Z as well, and Tommy and Merkovich and Ty Rogers. Yeah, so it's pretty good if they can add backcourt pieces. And I personally think that we also are sleeping on Brandon Lee. I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to come in and compete for minutes off the bench. And then Keaton Wagler, I think if he will stick it out and go through a year of Fletch, I think he's really good. Like, he's really talented, skilled, can shoot it, can handle it. He's a 6'6" point guard. There are a lot of guys who, have compared. If you watch his film and you don't see a little bit of Will Riley in that, but on Will Riley, like before he got to Illinois, he weighed 160 pounds. And that's the thing. That's where Wagler is too. And so you got to get stronger. And so, yeah, I really like where they're at if they can add 2 to 3 pieces to this roster.
I'm going to just do 2 guys. One guy went in the portal tonight. I know Illinois fans may remember. I don't know if you, Griff or Mike or Brad, if you guys saw this, was Dawson Garcia into the transfer portal tonight. A guy that put up big numbers, and Illinois went toe-to-toe with North Carolina a couple of years ago with him, a scoring machine. But the guy I do want to talk about, I'm not going to go through a bunch of names. I really hope
Ed, real quick,
Yes, sir.
Dawson Garcia is one of the guys I was talking about. He's 84 years old. So he's got to get a waiver to have another year. But if he does get that waiver, again, who's not going to want him?
Yeah.
Sorry, Ked.
No, exactly. He needs a proven score. And he knows about Illinois. He's visited Illinois. So I'm not saying that they did reach out to him, but if it was me, I probably would. The other guy I'm really sold on, Brad, you mentioned all the analytics and the numbers, is former Peoria guy, Adam Miller. I just don't think you can sleep on Adam. I think Adam is a guy who has been through hell with ACL tears and leaving Illinois, didn't want to leave. And the thing I can't tell people how to think or how to feel. I cannot, and I'm not trying to do that. But I just don't understand how if a player leaves, you just throw them to the wolves like that. Sometimes, and the people have asked us a million times, why can't they just tell the people in their camp to go to hell or just jump off a bridge? It's not that easy. Adam is a good kid, and I'm going to tell you, he could just be like everybody else, just chase the dollar. This kid wants to play for the University of Illinois. I hope it works out. I think he can help them. He's older. He's 23 years old. Kylan Boswell is 6 years old. I'm being sarcastic here. But he's played 4 years of college basketball. So then you, like Brad mentioned, then you get a guy like Ty Rogers, which is going to be 22, I believe. He'll be a junior, but he'll be 22 years old. And so will his brother. So you're going to be old, but Adam is just a game changer for me. And I think the freshmen are going to have a hard time because I do think, but the key is to stick it out. I'm glad all this NIL money may be different, so now guys don't have to jump ship all the time and wanting to leave. But if they could get Adam on campus and they get Dami Sarr and Stoyovich, I'm going to tell you right now, Illinois will challenge Purdue for the Big Ten title, my personal opinion.
Any thoughts, sir, Marcus?
KP, you set me up. I'm just going to come in and follow through for what you was just talking about. You all know how much I love my guy, Adam. Known him for a very long time. Know his mom for a very long time. Being friends with the McClains. And so, my guy, just come home. Come home. I think he needed to leave Illinois at the beginning when he first, I think it well-rounded him a little bit. He went through a lot of ups and downs. Leaving another place. But now I think his game 100% fits everything that what Illinois is trying to do now. I think they got a good 3-and-D guy who can handle the ball still, who can shoot off the dribble like KP was saying, Lester was saying, who can shoot off the dribble, who can shoot wide open shots. And I think he would be more reliable than a lot of the shooters that they had on the team this past season. So come home. My guy, come home.
And look, we get into a lot of debates about the influence of people around a player to make a decision as to where they go to play, as opposed to the player themselves. How prevalent is that? Because we hear all the time, people are like, he's 20-year-old, 23-year-old, 18-year-old, doesn't matter. He should choose where he wants to play. What kind of stressors, Marcus, do these guys have when they have people around them and people who've helped them when they were younger trying to get input?
The biggest problem with that, I'm pretty sure if you could go back, I know you guys remember He Got Game with Denzel Washington and Ray Allen. You never know who is associated with who. You can think your team is tight. You never know who on the outside is being influenced by who. You never know if somebody is in somebody else's pocket using their voice to talk to you to convince you to do something that you truly don't want to do. You just never know. So there's always outside influences. That's how come a lot of guys keep it really tight. And I think you should, because there's a lot of money flowing around in these college sports now than ever before. And it's not under the table no more. And so you just never know. You get a best friend who somebody feels got the ear of a player. Hey, man, talk to him. Get him here. Do an unofficial visit. Let's see him. Let's get him here. You just never know. So I'm pretty sure it's a deadly game of that out there.
Yeah, and I just wanted to ask that because we hear how sometimes people who were U coaches in the past somehow have some ability to help make a decision, or even in some cases allegedly dictate a decision. And I wondered how that happened, because we get that question all the time on our message boards.
But it's
We do
trust
the
too,
thing.
though. Those kids are trust those, like those AAU coaches. Those kids trust those coaches, and they wouldn't think anything of it. They wouldn't. Why would this coach send me? I thought they're thinking he has my best interest at heart. Why would he send me somewhere? Why would he convince me to go somewhere else? But we all got to know in the back of our head, there's ulterior motives everywhere.
I'll give you and I think it's not always
Evil.
evil. Let me give you an example. So I had a softball player. She was originally committed to University of Illinois. She then went.
Who did you say? I didn't hear the name.
It's one of my softball players. That I coached. Okay, so she originally committed to Illinois. Ended up going to Eastern then after didn't sign with Illinois in the fall, and then ended up going to Eastern. So she went to Eastern. Didn't like it. Had a rough time there a couple years ago. Ended up going to junior college, graduating from junior college, and then she was out in the summer last summer looking for a place to go. She'd been on visits to play UT Rio Grande, to schools in Minnesota, schools all over. And so I have a lot of softball connections. I just went and I called a coach and I said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I helped her through the process to find a new home, and she ended up getting a full scholarship somewhere at Evansville now. And so these are things like, so I didn't do that for any kind of nefarious reason.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to do is find her a good place to go and find the best fit for her where she could get an opportunity. And I think that's the hard part about it is there's a line though, because I'm sure there are people out there who are trying to take advantage of situations, especially when there's money. Obviously, she's not getting it's softball, so you don't get these massive NIL deals or anything like that. But I think there is a trust, and you're like, hey, can you help me? Can you help me find what would be the best fit? What do you think? So they're going to get input. So I think sometimes, though, we always look at the nefarious side of this.
No, there are some good guys. Hang on one second. So here's the deal. There's good guys. There's good cops. There's shitty cops. There's good doctors and bad doctors. And Lord knows Kedric has seen his share in the last 5 months of doctors. My point here is that you get a bunch of coaches who, Griff, I'm going to use you for example. I'm not saying this happened to you. You come out of high school and they're thinking, okay, listen, this kid's an All-American. I know his family. I've helped this kid. If I can get this kid to Illinois, I got to get something out of it. I can deliver Marcus Griffith to Illinois, but I need something out of it. That's what we're talking about. Every coach, for some reason, they feel like they do. And then I understand why the kid feels like that, because the kid goes through your program, through an AAU program, and they may have been okay. And then when, your program helped put that kid on the map, helped put you on the map. So then now it wasn't just Illinois, it's Michigan and Duke and everybody else calling you, saying, hey, you know what? I want to talk to Marcus Griffin. All the calls got to go through me. Those are the people that I struggle with. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, there are some jacked up ass parents out there, because there was one on the Illinois basketball team this year. And so sometimes the parents aren't always the best source to advocate as well. So these kids are in a tough spot. When you think somebody tells you that, hey, you can trust me, I don't blame the kids, because my dad always said to me, you can't pick your parents. Your parents are who they are. So sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. You just got to know and do research. But when you're 17, 18 years old, you don't have that. And even some of these guys are in college. They want to kick back to some of these coaches. And I know a lot of people are mad at Adam Miller because they think Adam should just make a decision. There's so much depth and long history with Adam Miller, and when he came up, fans would be surprised. But it's not my job or Brad's or Griffin's or Mike Cagley's or Larry to say, hey, you know what? This is what really happened behind the scenes and why this school wants this much money, and then the player has to pay the coaches. That's not our job to put that information out there. But does this still happen with NIL? Yeah, it really does. It does, because some of these kids are asking for money, and then these agents are doing it. How I know? I'll close it with this. My daughter has a bachelor's degree in sports management, and one of the things you can do with that degree, which she's learning about helping out kids in NIL money, but she also has a master's in teaching. But what we've learned, she got sour right away, because right away we had a couple people that called us, and right away the first thing that they wanted was not about the kid. How much can they get 10% of the deal? This isn't a game for her. I just told her, I said, honey, you can think about it all you want. This isn't for you, because it's dirty still. These people still want to cut of that, even though NIL is a legal thing right now.
Yeah, it's just something we wanted to let people hear about because the question comes up a lot, and it's easier to discuss it here amongst people who know what's going on versus speculate. And you get biases and stuff. People get frustrated by one thing and they take it out on another issue. Brad and Ked, any updates on what's going on in the portal on the women's side? Is there anything going on over there? I know they've been fairly diligent in working the portal. Is there anything you think maybe imminent, or is it more of a keep hunting for the right fit?
I'll start with this one real quick. I do think they're looking for another player. I do believe that, but they have to be careful because everybody is saying the same thing. We need more size. They need more size, and they do. But what you don't want to do is Letty Vasconis is there. Then you have another freshman who's Haven Smith, who's 6'6". Then your incoming freshman class, other than Destiny Jackson, all of them are over 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". You don't want to run those kids off. And I respect the fact that the staff isn't doing that. What I think they really need personally is a shot blocker and a rebounder. If they can find somebody to rebound and block shots, I think they have enough scoring. I think Barry Wallace is an outstanding player, and I think some of those freshmen that they got coming in, people are going to see it. They have a great backcourt. They have 3 starters, and then you got Gretchen Dolan, so it really could be 4 guards. I just think they need another tough rebounder, somebody when you play against a team like UCLA, you don't get hurt so much inside. But everybody's looking for them for size. But what I'll tell you, I did see today in the transfer portal, I think there's over 49 girls, 49, 50 girls that are over 6'3" and taller. So it's out there. I think that's the only missing piece that I would say. And I don't think they're done. I remember hearing Coach Green talk at a local establishment a few weeks ago. I do think they're looking at one more piece. But the thing I like about Illinois, they're not just going to pick a player, regardless of what I think, Brad or Marcus, anybody else, just because it looks good. And we can use AJ Store. I know, Mike, you asked about women's basketball. If they don't think it's a good fit, they're not picking that kid. They don't want the kid. And Shauna is huge about how her locker room looks. So I do think they'll add another piece there. I think you're going to see an outstanding year from another Peoria great and Mrs. Aaliyah Guyton. I think she's going to have an outstanding year because I don't think Iowa used her. So that's it. To me, they're just missing one piece. But I cannot underestimate. I don't want people to just think Barry Wallace. That girl is a legitimate 5-star kid, and she played like a sophomore, junior to me last year, late in the season.
Yeah, she is I will say this. I think Barry Wallace is fantastic. I think the girl they added, Maddie Weber, is another tremendous player in addition to this team, along with the league guys. They've already added 2 pieces to allow them to be really good on the perimeter. Up front, if Letty is healthy, I think that she's going to be really good, and you have Haven to back her up, but I'm not totally sold. I would love to see a 6'3", 6'4", like Ked mentioned, person, or even if they're 6'5", I'm not going to turn them away. But if somebody 6'3", 6'4", who can rebound, be physical, play inside, be that. And when they play small, they can run 4 guards around a big girl. But I think they got to do that. The other thing you have to do is you have to, and this sounds crazy, but you want to, I don't know that you'd want to add one now, because who knows when somebody goes in the portal then, because they can still go in the portal. So I'd wait until after they're all going to enter the portal. I don't think you want to add guys until the portal closes, so your guys can't enter the portal, if that makes sense. And I think this is true on all sides. You have to be careful what you do before that. Yeah, so it's, I don't know. It's going to be intriguing what they do, but I like their roster as it is right now. I know they're going to struggle at times next year because although they'll be more talented, they're going to be so much younger than the old team they had this year. But they're actually going to have depth, which is going to be a nice change.
Yeah, I think you can't underestimate the leadership of a Kendall Bostic, a Dahlia McKenzie. Those are type of things that are just tough to replace. The last thing here, it sounds like for IlliniGuys subscribers, Matt might have some football news that might interest some people. And of course,
Luke.
Luke, yes, it might be worth a subscription there. To me, I got to be honest with you. When I saw Josh left, I was saddened because he was one of my favorite players. The guy has fought through two tough injuries. Guy never complains, just shows up and plays. But I thought that it was sad to see him go. But I think the NCAA indirectly with the transfer portal with the instantaneous eligibility has set this up, because 2.4 to 2.5% of college football players will ever play in the NFL. So if you're a guy and he happened to be a graduating, so if you're essentially able to hit the portal or be a grad transfer, and somebody offers you a large amount of money, the odds are you'll never play in the NFL. And if you can get another 200, 300, or $1 million, I have no idea where he would fall on that scale. But if you can make money like that, it can transform your life. It's really sad because I would have loved to have seen him stick around for this final year, but I can also very much understand why he would want to go. And he's going to be playing on Georgia. Maybe Illinois will see Georgia in the CFP next year. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, Brad and Ked and Marcus.
I think here's my thing. I didn't want to see Josh McCrae leave because he's been so good. But I will say this, good for him.
Yeah.
Go get $500,000 or whatever he got to go play at Georgia and take that money, because is there a long NFL career on the books for Josh McCrae? Probably not. Take that money when you can get it and go get. I still don't think he's going to get a ton of carries there any more than he probably got at Illinois. But I just thought he was a good story, and I really liked him in Illinois. And again, I'll always remember him for winning that bowl game or being the MVP of that bowl game. Like that run that clinched it was fantastic.
And let me throw one thing in there, Ked, before you go.
Sure.
Being that he's a grad transfer, he could have easily waited until the summertime when Illinois has less time to try to see what's out there and potentially replace him. He could have done that without a single shred of guilt. So I thought that the timing that he did showed a lot of class, because it did give the Illini time to get another person in the depth chart mix. So that's just one other thing.
I'll tell you, one of the things, I was surprised, but I didn't feel as bad once I heard Brett Bielema talk about it early in the week. He was surprised he didn't go last year. So let's look at the big picture. We don't know what the coaches talk about and what they say to each other, but that running backs room was really crowded last year at Illinois, and he wasn't going to be able to be a starter because it just wasn't in his cards. And I don't know if it's because of injuries or just because he got beat out. Who knows? But Brett was surprised, and he supported him. And we all know the feel-good story is Brett Bielema's first recruit. But if Brett supported it and was surprised that he came back last year, hey, hats off to him. And all these people who are sitting here, which we mentioned before, all the hell with the money. We want to see you win and wear that orange and blue. You know what? You wouldn't tell your kid that. You know damn well you wouldn't. So don't expect other people to do it either.
You're on mute, Marcus.
Hate to see him leave because, man, I played with that guy on March Madness college football, and he won me a Heisman. He won me a Heisman. He had 1,700 rushing yards and 36 touchdowns. But, man, the landscape in college sports have changed. If you can get that bag, go get it. If you can get it, if somebody offer you $500,000, like KP just said, that's a hard conversation to have with your kid where you want your kid to stay at school, but $500, $1 million a school is offering him, and he might not have an opportunity to move on in the profession of that sport. That'd be a hard pill to swallow to tell that kid, no, son, don't take that money. Let's keep playing. And then he has to go work a job making $50,000 a year.
Here, let me ask you guys this. How about this one? Now, this may be a sore subject with some people. Look at former Illini Coleman Hawkins. A lot of people criticized him, and they were mad that he left and threw him to the Wolves. But allegedly, he got $2 million. Okay, I've not heard one person on any podcast when I'm driving to work or driving to the hospital, which is like every other day, heard any other person say one single thing about Coleman Hawkins being drafted. So to Mike's point, to Brad Sturdy's point, and to Marcus Griffin's point, that's why you take that money. Because I don't know if Coleman Hawkins is going to be a first-round draft pick or second round. But guess what? If he got $2 million, I know how smart his family is. They're going to invest it, and he's set for life. So all you people out there sitting and say, "Oh, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done." He was smart to do it. Because guess what? His college career is over. He could go out and make that $50,000 a year like Griffin was talking about. And then when he wants to retire, he still has money to retire off of. That's why you do it if you don't get the money and you blow it. So Coleman Hawkins is a prime example of going out to get that money. Or, like we mentioned with Juju Watkins, the girl from USC. I mean, she tore an ACL, and hopefully it doesn't affect her draft stock next year. It didn't affect Paige's, but some schools, some programs may frown on that. Not like they used to, but some could. Sorry about that.
No, I need Juju to stay in school 2 more years. I need 4 years from Juju.
I don't want Illinois to have to play against her. I think she needs to transfer to Champaign.
I will sign up for that. I will sign up.
I tell you what, if Juju
I'll
wants
be
to come to
season
Champaign,
ticket holder.
I'll donate to some NIL money there to get that.
You give me Juju Watkins, I'm there every game.
Well, Griff, he's got all that money that we borrow money from Griff.
Oh, man, hey,
NIL people, go hit up.
I would have to sell a Ferrari to get her. So
he got a couple in the garage.
Yep, I got to sell a Ferrari then. I agree with. I was talking. Coleman Hawkins is a great addition, and I think it was a tough year for Coleman because it comes with $2 million, but you can't ever. That money's there, and so it was a tough year. They didn't win as much, and it's tough from a mental standpoint, going from a team that won all the time to going to a team that didn't win, and so I think that was hard. But you can't ever begrudge anyone for taking that money because we all would. You know what I mean? If somebody offers you, if you're making $100,000 a year, and somebody says, "Hey, I'll give you $2 million," you're going to take it, right? Am I wrong?
No, Brad. You turn that money down because you're supposed to roam the sidelines in Champaign or run up and down Memorial Stadium. You better not take that money, man. You bad boy, you.
Yeah, I guess if I had millions and millions in the bank, I'd be fine.
How many people do you know who have been? I don't know if I should take this other job, but it's $10,000 more. And they get themselves into a job when they may have been happy at their old job, and now they've got a job that they're not happy with, or they're under more pressure, or they have more hours. And the bottom line is that they're sitting there and saying, I'm going to turn that down. It rarely happens. Now we know it a little bit. But when you're talking in the millions, again, and I think you doubt Brett appreciates you telling the kids to leave Illinois. First off, that's somebody who can't hear.
I know, but I see that, but I want to know which one of us said that because I don't remember.
That's what I'm
that.
saying. I have no idea what conversation think you're hearing. But I will say one thing. I've met Brett Bielema, and I'll tell you what, he's a college coach like any other. He wants to win. But I think he really honestly cares about his kids. And I really do. I wrote about that in Heat Checks and Hail Marys today. That family with the ILL in there you see, that is a slogan. I get that. But if you talk to the players and you talk to the coaches, it's more than just a slogan. It's how he approaches things. And Illinois doesn't have the money of other teams. But they can offer kids, if you want to be a part of something bigger than you and you want to be a part of a group that really cares. It's not just about like Ohio State. Those guys after the Michigan games, they look like somebody just killed their dogs because they were like, oh my God, we lost. This is horrible. These Illini players, there's a camaraderie there that you don't always see. And I think he's built that in that football program. And I do think that he genuinely cares about his kids. And I think if Brett Bielema was asked by somebody, what's the best thing for you? I think he'd sit down and do a T, pluses and minuses, and he would go through it with a kid, and he'd be pretty dang honest about it.
Mike, I can't say
I got him wrong, Brad.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I have talked to these kids. Some of the things these kids have said to me, I don't want to put the kid out there, but there was one kid, and I can text you guys off there. He literally cried having a conversation after he met with Brett Bielema because he's honest with kids. He's passionate. He doesn't lie to kids. That's probably the thing that I like. I don't want to leave out the volleyball coaches and the softball coaches. I'm going to talk Shauna Green, Brett Bielema, and Brad Underwood. They don't lie because these kids will tell me, I committed this school because of this. Go back and look, and if I think I may do it myself, look at some of the schools. This is Illinois football. Illinois football was dirt. It was dirt. 1 year, you're great, and then the next 17 years, you can barely spell the state of Illinois, and then you're good again. You go ILL. My point is, Brett is beating out schools, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. These are programs that's never happened. You know what it was like before Brett Bielema got there? I'm sorry, Toledo and Miami of Ohio. That's the competition that you were going up against. That's who you had to go beat. You had to go out and think, okay, who are your offers? Western Michigan, Toledo, and Ohio. Go look right now. Get on the internet. You want to sit and you're a guru, a coach. Go get on the internet and look at the kids that committed to Illinois and what schools that they picked Illinois over. Huge Big Ten schools, huge SEC schools. That tells you that he's not lying. And it tells you that he has a good program. And the same with Shauna. I mentioned this a couple of times. She could have had a number of kids leave her program. You don't think Adelia could have left? Kendall Bossy could have played for one of the teams that was in the final 8 this year. She didn't leave. And it's because of those relationships. It is relationships. And that is huge. As a parent, when you send your kid away to school, you want your kid to be taken care of by that coach. That's the one thing. And if you can believe it, yes, you do. And at the end of the day, and if the coaches lie, then you got the opportunity to leave. But I'm really impressed because this is 3 coaches I've not seen like this in a long time that are just passionate and they're winning. Sorry about my ramble.
That's so good. I am shocked to see St. Dominic's Rosary be upset about, not excited about next season. I really am. After all the wonderful comments he has all year on our podcasts and post game shows, I'm really shocked by that.
Maybe they just won't play a season next year.
And so it's funny. It's funny. You mentioned. I think Purdue's going to be really good next year. I think they might be preseason number 1. Houston obviously has a chance, but Michigan, I think, is going to be good. But I think they're really relying on Yaxel Lindeborg coming back to school. And you've seen multiple people. He even said it's 80-20 going to the NBA. And you've had now a guy, I think Jeff Goodman said the other day, he's focused on the NBA. He's not really worried about college. Yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah, so I don't think that's I think those teams are going to be good. I think Illinois is going to be good too. I think we dismiss guys. We have SNTS, as we call it on Illini Guys. We have shiny new toy syndrome, where we only look at guys that we bring in and not the guys that we return. And I think bringing guys back. And I was if you recall last year, I was a big proponent of that, of keeping guys and having
we
stability.
Were all whiny, weren't we?
We were about that. I really wanted them to have more continuity, and they did this year. So I'm not upset. Do I want them to go get every guy in the portal? Yeah, I want them to have all the best guys, have 15 All-Americans, and then they can have first team, second team, and third team, all Big Ten, all in Illinois. That'd be great. It only costs you the low price of about $25 million, and you can do it. So
I don't have any issues with that. I don't have any issues with that at all.
It's not my money. Spend it.
Not mine.
But yeah, so I think
money.
Yeah,
write that check, KP. Write that check.
My kids are going to the hospital bills.
But I think they're going to be good. I think Brad Underwood should get a little bit of leeway in the sense that he's had the most wins in the Big Ten over the past 6 years. They've made 6 consecutive NCAA tournaments. Something that he's doing things that haven't been done at Illinois. Yeah, we need a Final Four. We need a national championship. Yeah, but it's been a long time. And so we got to just kind of let this, I think that we use this phrase too, LiPo, let it play out. And so I think that we got to trust in your coach, and he's going to be good, and he's going to do a good thing. He is one thing I'll say about Underwood, he's reactionary in the sense that if you he wanted to get old 2 years ago because he felt like they were too young, the freshman guards. So he went and got old, and they made the Elite Eight. Then he became that last year. You had to because of that, you had to retool everybody, and you brought in all the young guys. So I think that this year he's trying to get older again, but he thought it was key because the way the portal was, he kept core guys, and he did that. He kept core guys this year. So he's reactionary a little bit, but he's trying to find the best kind of mold for how to do this, or best model for how to get this.
Yeah, we just got to have a couple of old guys mixed in with a couple of juniors, seniors mixed in with a couple of sophomores, finished off with a couple of freshmen. You got to have freshmen to continue the program, but you need them old guys that have played in those big games, that have had NCAA tournament experience.
Ty Rogers. Ty is that guy.
And I saw him in the gym. His jump shot looks good.
Yes, it does. It does.
To be honest with you, it never looked bad. It was just up here that he's having the problems.
Yeah, it's just confidence. I think he'd be fine.
Look, it happens. It doesn't happen that often. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
People don't get the Friends reference. And then, of course, we're all overcoming the John Cena winning the title, ancient. Yeah. Did you watch that, Griff?
Of course I watched WrestleMania. Of course.
Now wasn't that match with Seth Rollins and CM Punk And
I acknowledge my tribal chief. I acknowledge my tribal chief, Roman Reigns. But what Paul Heyman did was absolutely disgusting. He did awesome. A double turn. He double crossed Seth Rollins, CM Punk, who's representing Illinois, Chi-Town boy, Chi-Town man, no disrespect. And then he turns on the tribal chief to align himself with Seth Rollins. What is this?
That's my question. What the hell are you guys talking about?
I'll tell you
this
what.
Is like this is a foreign language. Man,
Seth
this
Rollins.
is like Sturdy. We need to do our own basketball cast, man. I don't know. I don't know about
I don't even know what this is.
I'm just telling you.
Let me get my phone.
Sacrificed his career for Roman Reigns because he was basically taking the face role, and then Roman Reigns came back from leukemia.
Yep.
And Seth had to literally the next night go from a good guy to a bad guy, and there was no plot really written. He just walked out there and started calling people a bunch of names, and it set his career back 3 or 4 years. So I really think this was what he needed, and it was so great to see Paul Heyman do that. And then I will tell you though, the John Cena match, I love Cena because he's done over 600 Make-A-Wishes. Before he started doing Make-A-Wish for children, the most they had ever had was 200. He doesn't talk about it, but he goes and he does it. That is just gut-wrenching stuff. And yeah, now that he's the bad guy, but he's too old to be in the ring. And some of the moves look like me and Sturdy out there.
Oh, yeah, they stiff. They stiff, boy.
Oh, my goodness. There was a couple times when Cody had to, just stand there and wait for Cena to do the move. But so that was a little bit but
they had a boring match. It was a boring match. Yes. Let's be honest. It was a very boring match. But Cena won.
Yeah, and he got it 17 times. And then you knew when Michael Cole started saying that Ric Flair was the dirtiest player in the game, so it's okay. Yeah. Wait a minute, we got the good the good announcer talking about how bad guys are good. Yeah. I think they all got confused on how to deal with that match.
Mike, let's not bore these two guys too. They look so disinterested in us talking about wrestling right now.
Sturdy knows exactly what happened the whole day. He's got it all
down. Look at what are we talking about?
Okay, I will tell you this.
Sturdy knows.
I know just because I saw it on social media, but I have not. I'm I can't actually believe that people pay to watch this.
You don't have entertainment.
I can't believe we're even talking about it, let alone pay for it.
It's
entertainment.
It's on Peacock now, man.
No wonder my Peacock's out right now.
Yeah,
they get some of the most beautiful. They got some of the most beautiful women in the world who are some of the best athletes, and it is entertainment. It is
now 100%
entertainment.
Now all of a sudden, Ken, wait, what are we talking about here?
Hey, go look at Bianca Belair. KP.
If they're not moms,
KP,
the kid doesn't want to talk to him.
I want you to go Google Bianca Belair. Go Google Bianca Belair, and then you tell me what you think. Just send me a text message.
She's no Mercedes Moné. She's no Sasha.
Hold on, she is way better looking than Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks.
Hey man, we're all gonna get fired.
Yeah, we are. All right, let's move on.
All right. So anyway, wait a minute. I'm just getting ripped for my terrible movie reviews. Hey, if you like guy movies, you're going to like my stuff. If you don't like them, by the way, I've already got tickets for Thunderbolts. Marvel has already made a classic mistake that they've made their last 3 or 4 movies. They've got a bad guy who is so powerful that the good guys aligned against them really can't win. You had Ant-Man going up against Kang, a guy who's got technology from the 40th century, can do anything, and he's got Ant-Man fighting him.
And he lost the ants. He lost the ants.
Exactly. And then now you've got the Sentry, who literally is on par with Superman. He took Ares, who's like an Olympian god equivalent to Thor, and he disemboweled him by ripping him in half one time. And now he's got the Thunderbolts that he's fighting. I don't know where Marvel... It's a Red Hulk against Captain America. That should have been a 2-frame battle. One was Red Hulk putting his hand up, and the other was squishing him like a bug. And so I wish they would stop getting these unbelievably powerful villains and then putting them up against the 4 of us.
I'm a badass, Mike. Don't forget.
Well, okay, except for but we'll all hide behind you, which is going to be really hard for Marcus to pull off.
I get on my knees.
Oh, you guys.
And by the way, Larry went to Centers, and he's supposed to tell us how it was because he went last night.
No,
And if
don't
we'd
tell.
have
I'm
known
going to see
people
that
wanted-
tomorrow. I'm going to
Oh,
see
really?
that tomorrow.
I gotta wait until I have time. We're in the middle of softball season, man. You can't.
Well,
I heard
here's
that it was great. I heard that it was movie of the year.
That's
Right.
already saved us this weekend. Don't make him do it again.
Yeah.
the funny thing is, Larry could have been on tonight. He has a job that forces him to work this time of day. But I got Cinemark had this thing where you can go to see a sneak preview of a future movie, and I thought you got to pick the movie, so I bought it. It's on Tuesday nights, so I bought it for I don't know $4 or whatever. So now I'm like, it tells you that those movies that were just representation, you don't know what you're going to go see. So I'm like, this is kind of stupid. I don't know that I want to go to the movie theater and find out that there's nothing to see or it's nothing that I want to see. So anyway, I'm trying to debate whether I'm going to go to the surprise movie. I thought I was really looking forward to something as mindless as like a Jason Statham movie or like the new one from Ben Affleck where they get him and the guy who plays the Punisher in The Accountant Part 2. Now that looks like
Ben
something that I
Affleck.
can-
Ben Affleck.
yeah, Affleck and then the guy who plays Punisher on the
Yeah.
Daredevil series. That looks great. But
Don't
anyway,
that come out next Friday? No, this
think
Friday.
it's one of them. So I might be seeing that tomorrow night sneak preview. I have no clue. So I have to decide if this mystery thing, because all I need is like a teenage rom-com and I'm going to be out of there so fast. All right.
All right,
So
boys.
let's let this go because Illini Bubba is going to pass out. We don't want that to happen
Yeah.
on one of our podcasts.
I want to have to do CPR through the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
So
we'll go one. Go ahead.
we will land playing as Illini Bubba would like. Next time we're going to have to talk some movies though as the summer progresses. Because I'll tell you, with Fantastic Four and Superman, I am jacked for those two movies.
Yep.
All right, folks. Until next time, go Illini.
ILL.
I and I.